And Anya,
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Andrea. I'm here with the Community Language Cooperative. I'm here because you guys have committed to practice language justice in a space where everybody can speak and hear in the language of their heart, the language that they speak at home with their families, or how they feel more comfortable expressing themselves. We're going to offer simultaneous interpretation in English and Spanish. And once I'm done saying this message in Spanish, we're going to turn on the interpretation and you're going to see a world map or globe at the bottom of your screen. Or if you're on your phone or tablet, you're going to see three little dots where it says more. Please select your preferred language. If you are fully bilingual, you do not need to select any of those languages. To remember to speak close to your microphone, mute yourself when you're not speaking, and stretch your words and speak at a conversational pace. Hola a todos, mi nombre es Andrea, estoy aquí con la Community Language Cooperative. Estoy aquí porque ustedes se han comprometido a practicar la justicia del lenguaje en un espacio donde todos puedan hablar y escuchar en el idioma de su corazón, el idioma que hablas en sus casas con sus familias o como se sienten más cómodos expresándose. Vamos a aprender la interpretación y ustedes van a ver un mapa mundo en la parte inferior de su pantalla donde van a poder seleccionar el idioma de su corazón. Si son bilingües no tienen que seleccionar ningún idioma. Thank you and we can begin interpretation now.
All right, everybody, I am just going to start the recording here in Spanish and get started. Okay. Welcome, everybody. This is the third of our Farm Bill discussion series. Thank you all for coming. I'm Jordan. I work with Hunger Free Colorado. If you have missed the first discussions, you don't have to worry. We have summaries, and I'm going to go ahead and post a link here where you can go and look at summaries from the previous two discussions. It's going to be coming in from the Spanish recording, but there is the link to our previous discussions. We also recorded both of them, so if you want to actually check out the conversation, you can check out this link here. Really quickly, thanks again for coming. Please go ahead and put your name and where you're joining in the chat. This call is going to be recorded so that we can share it out as well, but just so that you are aware, and then we'll be going ahead and sending out a follow-up email to everybody with that information. Please make sure to keep lines muted, but please also use the chat if you have comments or questions. Really quickly, to go over the agenda, we're going to start with a brief overview of the coalition and shared values. We'll then talk a little bit about site visit tips with legislators. We'll then go to a breakout session where we can start talking about actually how to plan site visits. We'll report back and we'll go through a little bit of a closing. So with that, thanks so much again for being here, and I'm going to pass it off to Wendy.
thanks, Jordan. Hello, everyone. And Lori, I see your hand. Please chat in a question if you have it, or I'll ask you what the question is in just a minute here. Thanks for going over that, Jordan. Just a real quick refresher. As Jordan said, this is our third of the Farm Bill discussion series. And the we is all of you on the call, and all of you who've been with us for 3 different sessions. That's fabulous. Thank you for being here. And it's been sort of an informal coming together of our organization, Nourish Colorado, Hunger Free Colorado, Feeding Colorado, Food Bank of the Rockies, National Young Farmers Coalition, Hunger Free Colorado, several organizations that have and do and will be mobilizing and doing advocacy work around the Farm Bill, and really wanting to and committed to saying, how can we find a space to come together and talk about how we can really support and share information and support each other and activate and mobilize one another, even if in the end we may have slightly different sort of top line priority issues for our Farm Bill advocacy. There's a space around food and farm issues where we really come together and share a lot of values. So we wanted to have a space for that with you all and many, many others, as well as a space where we can come together and strategize together about how do we actually be an effective from the state of Colorado and be effective, powerful voices. As many of you know, we do have a senator that sits on the Agriculture Committee, Michael Bennett. It's a pretty powerful seat, as the Senate Ag Committee is a key holder of Farm Bill process. So We're glad you're all here today. And with no, next slide, please, Jordan, thank you. It's just a real quick recap of, not seeing the next slide, sorry. What I'm going to do is a real quick recap of some of those shared values that those of you who were with us in the last previous sessions worked on collectively, gave us a ton of feedback, many slides, I think, worth of feedback about what are some values that maybe we all collectively share that help guide and inform our Farm Bill advocacy work. So just a real quick refresher, here is where we landed. Thank you so much to Liz and Joelle and others that really worked on condensing and summarizing some really powerful feedback. Ultimately, we landed here, and that we envision a farm bill that unites us in reimagining an American food system that recognizes that all people deserve access to the nutrient-dense and healing food that they choose, where they live, when they need it. And two, that centers the needs and values of under-resourced communities, especially BIPOC and LGBTQ+ communities, farmers, and farm workers who are disproportionately impacted by policies that favor those with power, or a certain kind of power anyway. And three, promotes local food systems from urban to frontier communities that are resilient and regenerative, and that empower people and their local economies at every step from farm to table. So you can go ahead to the next slide. Thank you. And I'm going to pass it off to Anya with Hunger Free Colorado to kind of dive us into the meat of the day, planning site visits. Thanks, Anya.
Thank you, Wendy. Yeah, so a big part of what we wanted to talk about with you all today was how we can put a lot of what we've talked about into action through planning site visits coming up next month through the August recess. So I'm going to go through a few of the various steps we can take to do that and some tips, and then we'll open it up as well. So first step, if you're not sure, find out who your representative is. So both of our senators are Senator Hickenlooper and Senator Bennett, and they represent the entire state, but you only have one representative. And so if you're not sure who that is, you can look that up through this link that I will put in the chat momentarily. And that's where you can see who your local representative is and who you might be inviting on a site visit there. And so when you think about who you want to invite, typically this will be your representative or a senator, but it could also be a combination. And when we invite members of Congress to meet or come do a site visit, it's also not always them, the member themselves who comes. Oftentimes they're able to arrange a meeting or a visit with one of their staffers, but they might not be able to be present. That is okay. Staffers do tons of important work on Capitol Hill. And so meeting with them and working with them and sharing your work and having them be a champion too is also really important and effective. And they have the ear of the member of Congress. So think about who you're wanting to bring to your site. It's going to be someone who represents where you're working, right? So someone who represents the district that your organization is in or your farm is in. And that's really step one. So next, you want to decide on what you want to showcase. So in other words, what do you want to highlight, or what point do you want to make with this site visit? And it doesn't have to be complicated. It could be 1 to 2 things that you really want to convey. Maybe it's the importance of a certain program or funding stream you work with. Maybe you want to show them that thing in action, so its impact is real and important to them too. So for example, maybe you really want to show them SNAP outreach in practice. What does it look like when people come to your organization or to your farm stand who are eligible but not enrolled in this program? And how do you approach that? And what does it do for your community? And then you're highlighting the importance of that program and funding stream and making it really real. And then you want to have at least one person present who can tell a personal and compelling story. And again, that doesn't have to be complicated or intricate. It's really just someone who can share earnestly about the importance of the program you're talking about or the policy or the thing you're highlighting, and tie it to their own experience. So as you think through those other things, what do you want to highlight? What do you want to make sure to convey? That can then help you think through, okay, well, who do we want to have present in addition to the congressperson? And it may be no one, just building trust and a relationship with your member of Congress in and of itself is valuable and helpful. But maybe you decide you want to have other local partners there or have some local press there. That's fine. You just want to make sure to communicate that with the office that you're inviting, especially if you're thinking about press. And that's also something you can communicate with them about in advance if you're not sure. So, maybe you think it would be great to have a local newspaper cover the visit and talk about their visit, but you're not sure. You can always run it by the office and sort of plan that kind of collaboratively with them too. So once you've got some of those things down or have a sense of how this visit could take shape, you can think about an agenda and the details and logistics piece. And so this part of focusing the invite is about narrowing it down and defining what you'll do. So you can think of one clear activity or event and how you'll relate it to your work and to their work in Congress. And you can also think about how you'll want to communicate that. So if you bring partners along, what are the pieces you'll speak to? What are the pieces they'll speak to? What are the short stories that will get shared? And then think of details. So when you reach out to the office, you want to let them know any specifics you can. So if you have a specific date or time in mind, be upfront about that. Or if you have flexibility, also let them know. That can help them on their scheduling side. And then for timing, it's important to know that we're talking about these site visits because we have this big opportunity coming up in August. So we're shooting for the August recess because that's when Congress is basically coming back to districts or working from home. And so the Senate will be back in Colorado August 8th through September 5th, and the House will be back August 1st through September 5th. So you can think about that as really the big window that we're thinking about when scheduling site visits for this August. So a few more pieces, reach out now to staffers. If you're not sure how to get connected, you can work with us. Wendy and I are happy to find the right contact. Hopefully many of you were on the call last 2 weeks ago when we heard from some staffers, and I actually think we have some on the call today too. Hi, Peter, with Representative Crow's office. But we can, if you're not sure who that contact person is, we can help you get connected. And it's really best to email them directly. Oftentimes, congressional offices have forms you can fill out on their website or generic email addresses. And it's just going to be a little more efficient if you can contact someone directly. And so, invite staffers now and early and often to see your work. That makes it a lot easier for them to get to know what you do, to understand your work, and then eventually bring along the actual congressperson later, right? That's all part of what can come from these this ongoing trust building and relationship building. When you're making the invitation, you can also, try to clearly explain what you want to talk about in the site visit and the connection to their work. And again, if you're going to meet with a staff member, that is great. That is still a really exciting thing to do for the August recess. Next slide. All right, and then some final tips. I know we're going over a lot. Don't get too nervous, be yourself. Your work speaks for itself. And keep it simple, showcase that one compelling story that they can repeat. Members of Congress really, really, really like to have those stories and pieces of understanding from their home districts, and they will repeat it a lot. Take photos with them. Photo ops are great. You know, you can share it on your social media, they can share it on theirs. It's a great way to document the occasion. You can give them swag if you have, you know, something from your organization you want to share. And connect with issues that they care about, committees they sit on. You can do a little research in advance to see what they're working on, see what committees they sit on. That's another piece where we can help you as well if you'd like. And you can draw those connections during the meeting you have. If you have a specific ask, make sure to make it. Maybe it's to co-sponsor a bill, maybe it's to champion a certain policy in the Farm Bill, maybe it's just to really protect a program that's important. That's fine, but you make that ask and you can make it clearly. And then if you have any educational materials, make sure to share them. So infographics, one-pagers, fact sheets, those are great, share them. And then if they ask questions that you don't know the answer to, that's totally fine. Don't make it up, but you can just let them know, you know, I'm not sure, but I will get back to you. And it's actually a really great way to trigger a follow-up, right? We're going to talk about follow-ups as well. They're super important. But it's a really natural thing to follow up with information that you might not have in the moment, and that's totally fine. And yeah, so that's the final point there is, you know, let them know how you'll follow up with them, and then follow through. So maybe you're going to invite them to an event, or share your newsletter with them, or reach back in a couple weeks to see, you know, if they're able to take a position on the bill you asked about, for example. So you can share that at the end of the meeting and then make sure to follow up with a thank you, any follow-up materials, any information you promised you'd get back to them with, and you can start that back and forth dialogue, which is now rooted in an in-person meeting, which is really exciting. So with that, I'm going to pause and see. Actually, oh no, yeah. I want to pause and open it up to see if others have other tips or questions or thoughts to add on site visits. Because I know there's a lot of experience in this virtual room and a lot of creativity and ideas as well. So I would love to hear from you all. Or for some of you who have done site visits before, maybe you have like a favorite one that you were part of that you want to share about. So any other tips? Yeah, Joelle.
Thanks, Anya. Yeah, just cannot reiterate everything Anya said. It's right on. Especially, you know, not answering questions you may not have the answers to. It does create a great opportunity to follow up with additional education. That's wonderful. Also, Peter, I saw that you're in the participant list as well. Is there anything from your perspective as a congressional staffer that you would recommend that would be helpful that maybe we missed?
Gosh, sorry, putting me on the spot here. No, I think that was a really great kind of run through and process to go through if you're trying to plan a site visit or work with our offices. I think really great. And if you follow these steps, it should go really smoothly.
Great. Any other tips folks want to share? Oh, I see from Trudy in the chat, perhaps coordinate with others in your area so members can make many connections in one visit. I love that, Trudy. We're actually maybe going to have an opportunity to do that after this. We're going to break up into some breakout rooms and start planning together. So I love where you're going with that. And then from Rita, okay, so what if we do not have a specific legislative ask? Can you explain the goals of a site visit in this situation? Yeah, so I think it's okay sometimes if you're going for basic education, but for example, with something like the Farm Bill coming up, you can also craft broad asks, and we can also help think through that. So you could try to tie one of the things that you are going to be showcasing to a value in the Farm Bill. You could also tie it back to like the value statement that we put together. But additionally, part of what we're going to follow up with, and I think what Wendy's going to get to this next, is some additional resources like talking points, like sample invitations and things like that. And that will also give you some things to draw from. But does anyone else have other things to add to that question? It's a great question. All right. Okay, well, I will pass it back to Wendy to talk about some next steps.
Great, thanks, Anya. So just to that, because there's a lot we could dive into here, and we're about to go into breakout groups and just be able to kind of troubleshoot and brainstorm together. But just so you know, we will be sending out a package of tools and materials, as Anya mentioned. So just sort of an FYI, mostly Anya, thank you, Anya, we'll be putting together a package that we'll probably send out to you next week that'll have those like sample invitations, sample agendas, all of that. So you can kind of have like a toolkit at your disposal. And one thing I just wanted to flag that we're going to put in there too, that we have certainly used a lot at Nourish, is the National Sustainable Agriculture Coalition has a sort of 3-part guide they put together about building relationships with Congress. As you can see here, there's building relationships with field offices, building relationship with DC Hill staff, and then the insider scoop, tips from congressional staff they put together. So that'll be a part of the follow-up we do as well. It's a little bit broader than just say setting up a site visit. The nice thing about some of these tools is just it's a little more focused on just anytime, all year round, what could we be doing to build relationships with our representatives and our senators. So Rita, this gets to your question a little bit as well, is that sometimes there isn't like a very specific bill or something in front of us, but it's always a good day to be building relationships with your representatives, right? And always a good day to be bragging and showcasing the work that you do, because really good legislators, and we have some really good ones from the state of Colorado, they're going to make those connections, right? They know the farm bill is coming, or they know that state child nutrition reauthorization is coming, or whatever it is that they're focused on. And it's the stories that you share and tell that they're going to remember, and they're going to make connections to the legislation that they work on. So just a quick heads up, this packet is coming. And one thing that's going to come out that we're going to include in that, and then Jordan, if you could screen share, it'd be great, is this sort of tracking sheet that we put together. We're also going to pull this up if we want to in breakouts in just a minute. But a couple things. So Anya is resharing Find Your Representative. So if you don't know who your representative is, you can go to the link that Anya is sharing. And then there's a tracking sheet that she also just chatted in there. And I don't know if we can screen share, Jordan, that's great. If not, no worries. I'll just start talking about it. But one thing that we would love for all of us to use is a tracking sheet about site visits, about really who you are, who you're inviting, to showcase what at a very high level when you're asking someone. And I think it was maybe Trudy, someone chatted in just now, let your partners know, right? So that maybe you could coordinate. So the tracking sheet is something that we're going to start to try to use to facilitate exactly that. Is if we are all sharing this, y'all and others around the state that we share this with can start seeing like, oh my gosh, like this other organization in Garfield County is also inviting Senator Bennett, to the neighborhood to see some of their work. Let's see if we can tag team, or let's see if we can, at least stack some dates or things like that. So hopefully this is a way to kind of facilitate some of that communication and organization. So what you see here is hopefully pretty simple. We want to keep it pretty simple and high level. Again, there is a link in here as well to find your rep and member, find your representative or senator. And we just want to know who you are, really want to know your email. So again, we can communicate with each other. If you have an organizational affiliation, your town and your county are actually both really helpful to communicate with others so people can locate you geographically. Please tell us who you are planning on inviting. It could be multiple, which is fine. If there's a specific staffer you're communicating with, that's going to be really helpful to put in here as well. So again, we can kind of share with each other and not say overwhelm a staffer, at least start coordinating with each other a little bit, like, oh, you talked to Ryan, I also talked to Ryan, let's talk to Ryan together, or at least acknowledge that. And then if there's a specific event, activity, location, what exactly you're inviting them to. And then if you could scroll right a little bit, If you have specific dates that you're proposing, please put them in here, or at least like a window. Some of you may have like a farmer's market and you know exactly when, or an event and you know exactly when. That's great. Some of it may just be a window. Usually the broader you can be, the more chances you're going to get someone to be there, because you can be flexible. And we'd love to know, just really high level, does not have to be detailed. This is just an Excel cell. Key issues are something you want to highlight. Like if you really want to talk about like the importance of direct markets, right? And farmers markets, and how much need there is for like more capacity and infrastructure and support to move more local food to people in your community. Like just, or if you're talking about like SNAP eligibility, increasing SNAP participation, just something that's kind of high level that we know what you're talking about. If you are inviting the press or would like to, that's just important to kind of keep tracking, and so other partners know as well. And then if you are coordinating with other partners, please do let us know here. It's just so you can communicate with each other, and it's sort of interesting to track like how much collaboration is going on. And then lastly, this is probably the piece I would definitely forget to come back and do, but when it's confirmed, it'd be so great if people could come back to this and say, yes, like this staffer or this representative is confirmed, they're coming at this date and this time, and just put a few bullets of what the details are in there. Would be really great if everyone can kind of loop back to this. So we are about to go into breakouts to kind of by congressional map, to kind of talk through this and do some troubleshooting and actually start getting people like signed up and getting the tracker. But before we do that, just any high level questions, clarifications, anything about the tracker? Cool. Great. So without further ado, we're all going to be beamed into separate breakouts based on your congressional district. So again, Anya chatted in the Find Your Representative, which should take you to also a map of your representative's district. So you can kind of say, am I in that person or that person? So just if you have questions at all about where you want to head, please just chat it in. But we are all about to be signed up and then beamed to different regions of the state based on who the representative is. And you will each be then one of us, like Joelle, Wendy, Anya, one of us will be in each room to kind of say, hey, let's start working through this tracking sheet. Let's see if we can start getting people signed up right here and right now, but also just to sort of like troubleshoot any other questions that you all have that are kind of hard to maybe unmute and ask in a big group. That's what we want to do now. And y'all can start maybe even coordinating with each other. Like maybe 3 of you all are planning on inviting Representative Neguse somewhere. Let's talk about it. So I think we're ready to beam. Is that right?
Okay, yes, I've not yet mastered the art of beaming, but so we're gonna open the rooms and then you're gonna have to self-select based on your region. So we're gonna have 4 breakout rooms. We'll have one that they're not perfectly mapped regions, but you'll see. So we're gonna have, Denver Metro, that's gonna be folks who are in Representative Crow and Representative DeGette's office or districts. We're going to have one covering Eastern Plains and Colorado Springs. So that's going to be Representative Buck and Representative Lamborn's districts. This will be in the names too. We'll have one sort of on the Western slope that'll focus on Representative Boebert's district. But we've also heard that Senator Bennett is really hoping to get out to the Western slope. So definitely talk about inviting Senator Bennett out there as well. And really all of the districts can also be talking about organizing with senators' offices too. And then the last will be a sort of northern-ish group with Representative Neguse and Representative Perlmutter's districts. Sound good? Okay, gonna open. Are you all seeing the option to join? Yes, I'm seeing people disappear. That's a good sign. Okay. Jordan, we'll see you in like 20 minutes, but feel free to message me if you need anything. And I'm going to pause the recording out here. Thanks, everyone. Hope you had good conversations in your breakout rooms. I think the final 2 breakout rooms are they'll be back here within 50 seconds. So we'll give you a minute break.
Hey, Anya, I just received a really good question. Can I just jump in and answer it while we're waiting for everyone to get back?
Go for it.
So great. Someone had a great question about those of you who are tracking it all, the White House quote unquote conference on nutrition, security, and hunger, which is coming up sometime it'll be like a press event in September sometime. I think this Friday is the deadline for submitting comments for this White House conference on nutrition, security, and hunger. So the question was like, how does this all relate to Farm Bill priorities? So, and Anya, you can jump in here as well, but it's a great question. And in an ideal world, I think that a lot of people who are coming together to think about Farm Bill priorities are also sharing those and submitting those as comments to the White House effort, right? So and similarly, if you're working with an organization who's putting together comments for the White House conference, that those are foundational and can be reiterated when you are starting to build out your Farm Bill platform. So I think it's a great idea to be aligned when possible. But Anya, do you have anything else to add to that?
No, I think that makes perfect sense. And if any of you are doing like listening session efforts with community members too, that's also stuff that you can share with your member of Congress too. That's super helpful to them as well. So, we've been using that listening session format to inform the White House. It can also be shared. That's super valuable information for folks on Capitol Hill too. So I think we are all back at this point. And Joel's going to lead us in a little share out and if there are additional Q&As.
Yes, we have a very, very quick opportunity for share. We go till 1 o'clock, right, Anya? Yep, perfect. So very quick, I'm going to ask the lead from each group to just give a 30-second rundown of the site visits you talked about, just so we have a little bit of time for a Q&A and a takeaway. I was the kind of northern with Negoose and Perlmutter. We had some great opportunities like a farmer's market where there's a lot of additional supports like WIC, Head Start, et cetera, who participate there. That could be a great opportunity for Perlmutter and Crow as well. There's kind of like a cross there. Beginning farmers that Go Farmer connected to in the area who could help kind of like coordinate a beginning farm visit for Perlmutter. There's also an opportunity with EFA in Boulder who provide emergency services, especially to children, young families, people with disabilities, older adults as well, to bring in Negoose there to see their services and everything they provide. And then additionally, Hallie with the Jeffco Food Policy Council mentioned, it could be really exciting to have like a Jeffco-wide event with all these different anti-poverty sectors kind of coming together to facilitate a broader anti-poverty convening. But Billy, do you have 30 seconds to talk about what you all talked about on the Western Slope?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely a lot of good input. I think we got pretty solid headway on the spreadsheet here. We talked about having a representative, or particularly Senator Bennett, out at a gleaning event. There's also a supermarket that is being repurposed as sort of a pop-up food distribution center. It sounds like a really good opportunity. There's also a land campaign that's attempting to secure millions and millions of acres. Actually, I guess it's 1 million acres to redistribute to young and BIPOC farmers. So sort of highlighting the importance of land access and diversity in that access. And then there's, the pantries that just really need more funding across the board. We're looking at a pantry that's, or an organization that's fed or going to feed 70,000 people in 2022. So sort of getting Congress to look more closely at the operational needs and the funding needs of those pantries. So I think I may have left something out here, but I think the spreadsheet has definitely got a lot of good notes in it.
Amazing. Thank you, Billy. 30 seconds for Eastern Colorado.
we don't have an update because we had one amazing person, but couldn't really do advocacy work from a county agency perspective. So punting it to Metro Denver.
Metro Denver, 30 seconds, please.
All right, so we took some time getting to know one another too, but came up with some good ideas. So there's going to be some organizing around the Double Up Food Bucks visit. Not sure exactly what that will look like yet, but they're excited to work together. Folks with Uproot Colorado and Maybe We Don't Waste are talking about teaming up to try to do something around like food waste, but also gleaning. And then we got some super helpful tips from Peter about how we might be able to make something work for a site visit around something like gleaning that is somewhat unpredictable. So we talked through that a little bit, and that can be a really good opportunity to like bring staff members. And we also got some insider tips on when Crow staff will be here. So if you want to invite Crow staff to a site visit, August 2nd to 5th, talk to Peter. And as well as other people sort of marinating on it, you know, maybe one with Denver, maybe others. Oh, and Metro Caring. Sorry, Carl, I left you out.
Carl, thanks for being here. That's great. If there are additional questions, I know we're running out of time, but folks, feel free to drop them in the chat. I can hang out for a few minutes as well and answer additional questions.
Yeah, so with that, I think we are ready to wrap on today and on this 3-part Farm Bill series. Thank you all so much for joining and being a part of it and bringing ideas and really helpful questions and values and so much. So next steps, we will follow up with an email, hopefully sometime next week, that's going to be like really loaded with resources. We'll link to everything that was in the chat today and the spreadsheets and put together more tips and toolkits to hopefully make this easy and make sense. And you can also always contact all of us in the meantime or afterwards if you want to dig in more on any of this. Keep using that spreadsheet, please. That'll be super helpful for us all to reference and think, oh, you know, I was thinking about doing like this and, oh, Hallie's already doing it. I can get in touch or we can coordinate, right? So let's all keep using that, please. If you want to continue meeting regularly and digging in on the Farm Bill and trying to organize sort of through this informal coalition, we're going to keep doing that through the Federal Policy Subcommittee of the Blueprint to End Hunger. We meet every other Thursday in the afternoon, and you can email Joelle to get added to that list. And then also the Food Bill Action Team, FBAT, meets this time. We stole their meeting time for this series. And so Wendy, anything to add on FBAT?
I will just chat in my email. If you are not on the FBAT email list, email me and we can add you. We are going to go start meeting again late July. 2 quick things. Nourish Colorado will use that space to talk more about our specific Farm Bill platform. And also we're going to use the next few FBAT calls, which are 2 Wednesdays a month at noon, to kind of elevate and learn and listen from some local partners that are doing some incredible policy work. So email me if you want to be and you're not on the list. Thanks.
I think that's all we've got. Thank you all so much. And hopefully we'll see you in those other spaces very soon or at a site visit.
Yeah.
Woohoo!
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.